Anders lyk ons so strolle. Moet hy geel wees?
Ja,
Ook is myne
aan
geel.
rekorde.
En joune is
Ja,
geel.
is-
O, joune is geel en daai. Is jy reg?
Ek hierdie. Ons sê.
Ja, ook lekker. Yeah, welcome to Scoping. If you're not scoping, you're hoping. I'm here with Nathan Wickham. I think it's one of the best South African scopers at this stage. If you can see the results where this guy is at. So I decided and said to him, listen, it's time. We need to sit down and so maybe I'm going to learn a lot today. Yeah. So yeah, thanks Nathan for taking the time and let's talk about scoping in South Africa. I think both of us fished with US guys previously in the last year. And we learned a lot. I fished with Zaldane on Loskop. You fished with quite a bit of guys as well in South Africa and saw, and you went over last year. It was Italy last year.
Ja, the year before.
The year before was
24,
Italy, and that was quite
2024
that was a scoping,
only.
only scoping game, and yeah, I think you learned a lot there.
Ja.
Let's talk where we started scoping. If somebody, obviously, a lot of guys know scoping, but we're going to start from the start. So I think equipment is the first thing we need to talk about, and that's fish finders. So what do you've got on your boat? And if you can tell us a bit more on the equipment, how it works and what you use there.
Ja. No, well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Lekker.
Yeah, it's a cool initiative, this. I think it's one of the only fishing podcasts I know of in South Africa.
Yeah, well, we're trying. We're going to
let's start it off.
Lekker.
But yeah, so the scoping's grown obviously massively in South Africa the last year, I would say. Guys are catching on to what the leaders are doing.
They're doing, for sure, yeah.
But yeah, look, a lot of people have the equipment this side, but they don't have it set up right. So people, I can't see my bait, I can't see fish.
No,
but
that's quite a bit, John.
it starts from having the right equipment. So yeah, on my boat I've got Garmin. I believe it's the best for scoping. If I'm not wrong, they started it. They were the first guys for forward facing.
For sure.
And yeah, so they just one step ahead of everyone. And yeah, then another big thing besides having a good unit like Garmin is your battery setup.
Yes.
You need to have clean power.
Do you run a 16 volt or what do you run on your scope?
Yeah, so I got a Powerhouse Lithium 16 volt 100 amp hour. And yeah, that gives all my units power. It's got a dedicated battery, so nothing else runs off it. No pumps, no power poles,
just for
nothing
scoping.
that can interfere. It's just for the unit. And then I've got a harness system as well, like a thick cable that also just helps your screen.
I think in the US they call it the C-Clear. The C-Clear.
C-Clear harness.
Yeah. So that's the same I've got on my boat. I've just got a 10 Ultra 210 unit, Garmin as well with LVS 34. The eye on the scope transducer, thanks, yeah. And then same 16 volt battery, and that gives us quite clear.
Yeah, the clearer the better.
The clearer the better, the more you can see your bait and the chase and the cat and mouse games the fish plays with us down there. Huh?
Yeah, so now the battery is important. If you've got that set up, then you can start looking at setting it in, getting all the right settings, because different venues require different settings, different water, clarity, what's in the water, if there's algae bloom, everything changes. So yeah, but start off by your battery and by the right unit.
Yes, and I think that's...
And then from there onwards, you can learn.
So I think you mentioned it now, the clarity on the water. I mean, that makes such a difference. We fished in Nanda, the Nationals, what was it, last year in September. And I noticed in the morning with the sunlight coming in, looked more dirtier, the water, but as the sun goes up, it gets more clear. And on the unit now I'm talking about. Yeah. And same with Loskop now. This stage Loskop is algae bloom, the whole place is like super green. Yeah. And same with it. But it's only like 2 meters, I saw, 1.5 meters, 2 meters, and then down there. And then you need to do your gain, all those settings is down. You need to change it per venue you go, like you
Yeah.
said now. And that also makes a difference. Guys put it in the water, the transducer in the water, and they want to start fishing. I think there's a little bit of tuning in there.
No, for sure. And it takes some time to understand
That's it, yes.
what should you tune for what circumstance. I keep it quite simple now. I've got a little method there, what I do.
Yeah, so
and
you've
it's working.
Got, working for you. Yeah, obviously it's working. You can see what it. Thanks. I think that's on the equipment. A 10-inch is good enough for a start, I would say. I won't go smaller than 10-inch.
Yeah.
12 is the ultimate, and then you'll guys see in the next. We'll post it. I'm getting a 19.5. One of those units. It's coming in.
Flat screen.
It's coming now, and that's getting ridiculous. I'm going to be honest. But we keep going. We're going to do the scoping thing hard in South Africa.
Yeah. And what I've noticed with 10-inch more than enough. People use 9s and do well.
Is it? Okay.
What I've just realized, the bigger your screen, the better the separation is between the fish and structure. So if you think of like a small flip phone, if I show you a photo of someone holding their hand up against something and I show it to you on a TV, there's going to be a massive difference
in it.
So that's where the bigger
sense,
screen does help. It's not necessary, especially when you're learning, but if you really want to dive into the rabbit hole, a bigger screen is. The Garmin makes a 16-inch as well.
That's it. It's
you
massive,
can go for. You get the 19s.
But that's a separate monitor just you're gonna put on. But that's for a later podcast, I would say. It is expensive. Let's be honest. It's not cheap doing it. But there is the Eagle Eye from Lowrance, and one of our friends, Ruben, he's got one on his, and he literally really, really doing well with that. So that if you want to start scoping, it's also a point to go, I would say. Garmin is the best by far, but I think if you want to start and see if it works for you, the Eagle Eye 9 it's got only one beam, so it's a little bit half of a screen, but you can still see your bait, you can see the fish, you can see the tree. It is a good starting point, I would say, definitely. Budget friendly one, if we can move on, obviously next one is equipment. So what's the equipment you use, rod-wise, leader? I think we've got some stuff here on the table. You can show us, if you start from the beginning, what's your go-to rod and reel?
Yeah, so depending on if you're fishing a minnow now, a jighead minnow, strolling, whatever they call it. If we're strictly speaking about that, I've got two different setups, one for smaller minnows, one for bigger minnows. I don't like too long of a rod because a lot of times if it's windy and so I actually twitch my rod down because
I saw your YouTube videos
messes you up if you're up there. So it depends on the depth. I adjust it, but I've got a 6'9" rod from Japan, legit design. I'm actually bringing some of them in and selling them. It's expensive rod, but it's got all the right features. That's made for forward facing minnow. Soft tip and that's the deal. I
think that's the main thing on the. When I started, I used my drop shot rod, and I couldn't get the fish. It was just, I think the soft tip is a good one to go to, a fast tip or I don't think it's not any rod that gets the. How can I say the movement on the bait correctly? But soft tip and then in line wise.
Yeah, so then
braid
paired up with the spinning of your choice. I'm a big believer of Shimano. I like their spinning reels. So I've got a few Stratix that I use, and then braid wise, this is also something I'm selling on my shop, wickhamfishing.co.za. It's a Seaguar line, Japanese braid. It's super thin. I think. This is a 26 pound and it's like equivalent to a normal 15 pound braid.
Yes, so
it's super smooth, so it casts a mile. Really like this, and it's also a pinkish
color,
so you have an idea, which helps because when you're adjusting your trawling mode, you check, okay, there's your line going in, you can find your bait if it's gone.
It makes a difference.
And then Seaguar R18
on
your leader. The leader that I'm using. Usually we've got a lot of questions, how long of a leader, whatever. Smaller minnows, I do 2 rod lengths basically. So it'd be like a 14, 15 foot leader,
Okay.
maybe a little bit shorter. Couple winds when it knot comes through the eye.
So you're not. It's on the reel.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
in the reel, couple winds, and then on the bigger minnows, sometimes I throw heavy line, so you don't want a long leader. You don't even want that eye the knot coming through the eyes.
Coming through.
So short little leader is more than
It's
enough.
more than enough.
If that fish is gonna eat a big minnow, he's aggressive. I don't think he cares about your 20-pound
I
braid.
think your heart rate on your watch, if you watch that minnow going down and you see this fish coming up, it's it's something different. This game, eh? It's totally it's something we never, I would say, saw. We saw it on the Bassmo, on the elite side of it, but I think the last 2 years you really perfectionist, how's the word I can say it, you the best in this place. So do you where we're at the leader, and then from there on you go to your roller heads?
Yeah, so there's like any other kind of tackle, there's millions of different things. So owner makes something called a range roller. If you have a look at this hook, I'll actually see if I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So they've actually, the lead of this jig head actually goes up towards the eye of the
Yes,
the
on
hook.
top
So
there, yeah.
if you guys can see that.
Just focus it like that.
There we go. So what that does, or what I understand it does, it just changes the center of gravity a little bit, so it helps it just roll. So having a bait that rolls good is already a plus, but having this helps it even more. And owner hook, I don't think
You
there's
can't go wrong with
much
that.
bad to say about that. And then
Not at all.
we make our own jig heads as well that are a little bit more budget friendly as well, with different hook sizes, different weights. And what's cool, these are tungsten. So
so
that's
your head is a little bit smaller, but the same weight as it. Okay.
so that's the jig head side of the thing. And then baits as well. There's
So many baits. If I just want to come back to, what's the weight you prefer on the jig heads?
So on the range roller you only get 5.3 gram that I stock, which is 3/16 ounce. But I like to start off not as heavy as possible, but quite heavy, either 1/4 or 3/16.
Okay.
Just gets down to the fish a bit quicker. You can see what's the mood of the
Especially
fish.
if you fish deeper fish.
So having the heavier one is cool to kind of get a feel for what the fish are doing. If I see they're not committing like they should, a lighter weight kind of just teases them a bit more, stays in the strike zone a little bit longer. So I definitely do change it. Sometimes you have 3 rods, all the same lures, but just different weights, and you'll pick up one weight definitely works better than the other.
The other, yes. Yeah. Okay, I think that's where you can go over to baits now, I think. Obviously, you're a Sakamara Shad fan. If I wish you guys can see around me, I think I'm in Japan if I sit here. It's just depths everywhere. But it does work. It's a softer bait, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I saw you throwing that thing. It's insane.
No, look, it's special. I can't even remember how I came across it. I actually think my brother told me about it or sent me a video or something. And he said, hey, check this thing. And I thought, let me get my hands on some of these.
And it's sometimes impossible to get it.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem is trying to get stock of it. But I tried it and I haven't looked back since.
I know. We fished in a team together in Loskop in August, I think.
Yeah.
And he was literally gluing it. He was gluing it together so he could just he won that competition by far. And it was all in a Sakamara Shad. And I think you won it by how many kgs?
10 kilos.
10 kilos to the guys closer. I think team-wise we won it by 30 kilos.
Yeah.
So that was quite, it's all scoping. And Sakamara Shads was brilliant that week. It's always brilliant.
It's a good bait. It's my
go-to,
most confident bait at the moment if you're talking scoping. It is very soft. It does tend to tear
but that's why it works. It's like a Yamamoto bait. It's super soft.
Yeah.
But
there's a reason for
that's
it.
Exactly. That's why it's
that soft plasticine gives it the action that the fish can't resist.
So let's go to the next point. I think what we wrote down here is we've got the bait, we've got the rod, we've got the reel, we've got everything ready, the equipment. What do you look for on the unit? What's the first thing if you put that transducer down and you see a blob there? Do you know it's a bass or do you know it's a carp? It is. I'm gonna my opinion. What I saw, you can see a barbel quite easily because you can see the snakish, I would say, movement on it. But can you see the difference, or do you just try them out?
Yeah, so it is difficult. Over time, you learn how to kind of identify
How they act, yeah.
because if you go to, let's say, a Loskop, which is probably one of the best coping dams in the country,
far, yeah.
there's a lot of trash fish. There's carp, there's mackerel, there's so many things.
I think there's 6 or 7 different tilapia species in there.
Yeah, so you can waste time. So you got to be effective when you've got a certain amount of time to catch the fish. You got to.
Is there a depth you go to straight from the beginning, or?
No, it's not necessarily.
It's where we're at in the season wise.
Yeah, kind of see where the fish are. But yeah, if you're looking at a fish, I actually heard this on another podcast, and I've picked up on it, and yeah, thanks Drew Gill giving away some of his secrets. Yeah, so what I also understand, and I've actually seen it firsthand, is a bass is one of the only fish that can like sit still in the water column motionless without moving.
Yeah.
A lot of other fish you'll see he sits still, but you'll see movement.
Something is moving. Yeah,
so if you get a big blob oval looking and he's sitting there and it's like dead still, chances of him being a bass are good. There's one of the.
I just learned something here today.
One of the secrets.
I've been scoping a while, and I must say I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So how do you identify? What's your? Let's say you've got an area. You go to a tree. Do you go to rocks? Obviously, that's where the fish is at that stage.
Yeah.
What's your starting? You put the transducer in the water. What do you look for?
Yeah. So the way I find fish, they do relate to structure, but sometimes they're also in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense, but it's.
I think Inanda was that we fished Inanda in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that last day the guy caught fish, a 14 kg bag in 40 foot of water.
Yeah.
Literally just blobs swimming.
Yeah.
And he put it in.
Yeah, so they do relate to structure, trees, rock, grass, whatever. But yeah, trying to find a blob and identify it's a bass. If you are unsure, most of the times when you throw it, the way it reacts is also going to tell you what it is.
If it goes down on it or he comes up to it, it doesn't strike it, but he's got.
Yeah, there's other fish that do show interest, but a bass kind of he's gonna give himself away most of the time. If it's pressured fish, I've had it. You throw at that fish, it doesn't move.
It just sits.
Doesn't move, and you think, hey, this isn't a bass. Keep change boat position. All of a sudden, boom, it's on 3 kilos. So it is challenging to identify, but yeah, time on the water is what's going to teach you,
especially on the scoping side of it. Yeah.
What to do?
I think baits we went through, rods we went through. I'm not sure if you've got anything else what we can talk about.
Well, what I've also learned is a bass also either eats coming up or going down.
Okay.
So
that's a good one. I've got it on here. Yeah.
If you have a fish that's suspended on a tree or whatever, if he's holding to structure, using a lure like a minnow might not be your best option.
Yeah.
Because you can draw that fish away from the tree, which is his home.
And safe
he doesn't
for you
feel safe.
Yeah.
He doesn't commit because he's out of his comfort, if it makes sense. So, a lot of mistakes I've seen is guys also draw the fish away from where they're coming from. And then
they don't
if they are tight to the bottom, use something that's on the bottom. A minnow can work. But what about a jig? What about a Nico rig?
I think that was the next question. We said before we started here I think a jerkbait's brilliant. We throw a jerkbait and we just jerk 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And you never saw. Now you can physically see a bass coming up and you can slow it down or go.
Speed it up.
You know. And I think a jerkbait's also brilliant. In
very good.
If we can go back, I think it was in October. me and Nathan fished Middelburg Dam. We heard fishing is good there, and we went there, and totally just scoping that day. I was on a minnow putting it out there. We saw massive blob in the grass, just outside of the grass line. Massive blob, put it in, and it came up to me, but it didn't commit to the minnow. And I think you've got it on here somewhere.
Yeah,
there we go. You've got it on here. That chatterbait was insane. It's on Nathan's YouTube channel as well, and I think it was a 4.3, 4.25 something. Massive fish. Totally scoping it, but that's exactly what you said. It didn't commit on the minnow. It was interested, but it just took the tail, I think, and all of a sudden that thing just got him to bite totally. So it's not just minnow fishing. That's I think. Glide bait. I mean, swim baits. It's
super good.
That's brilliant. I mean, I think Slady murdered them at Loskop with swim baits at this in February. September. So it's not drop shotting. I mean, drop shot's brilliant.
Very good.
Obviously, I see you've got dices here.
The fuzzy baits, the new thing.
it's super ugly, but it works.
No, it does.
Scoping for sure.
And back to the glide bait it's a really good bait. Also, a bass is a super curious fish. Sometimes when you're not getting the reaction out of something and you're convinced it's a bass.
I mean, I'm going to jump out of this frame here, I think, but I mean, you must see the stuff this guy's got here. It's proper stuff.
I mean, something like that, a fish you think's uncatchable, you put that in front of him, you'll be surprised at what happens.
If you put a little 5-inch minnow in front of it, it doesn't want it, and then you change up. I think me and Chris when we went to Loskop, we literally put a 5-inch swim bait in front of the fish. Didn't want to react. We put a 6-inch, put a 7-inch, and we took out the 8.5, and he took the 8.5. I mean, that fish is not interested.
If he thinks he can fit it in his mouth, he'll eat it.
That's it. It's amazing with the size fish, but I think that sums it quite up. I'm not sure if there's anything else from your side, but.
Something I can just mention to the guys. I've just started a new little venture where I'm taking guys out, chartering guys on most dams around the country. Loskop's an awesome dam for me to go show you some tricks and tips on forward facing. So also wickhamfishing.co.za. If you go have a look there under the guiding tab, you can make contact with me. We can book a day and. Go have fun out there. Hopefully I can show you a thing or two. And
you'll definitely learn something from Nathan. I was a day or two, and I've been fishing quite a while, and you when you stop learning in this game, I think you need to stop fishing. You always need to be open to learn, especially in this new era, if I can say it like that, one thing I want to just add again is topwater. I'm a buzzbait lover. I think you know it. And you can literally on the Garmin LVS 34, I can see my buzzbait coming through, and you can see a fish commits to it. I mean, it's not just minnowing or a crankbait. I mean, we fished Arabi quite a bit, and scoping fish with a crankbait is also a thing, you know. So minnowing is, I think, the most or the better option, if you can say it like that. But it's not just plastics. You can throw literally anything. And I think me and Nathan will keep on scoping.
For sure, it's fun. People hate on it, but if you go do it and catch good fish off it,
if your heart's not racing when that fish comes up on that screen, I mean, you're
something's
dead.
wrong.
You're dead. But thanks guys for tuning in, and we will do much more on this. Maybe me and Nathan will do just a podcast. I'm not sure, but we'll comment down and let us know if there's anything else you want to know, or a question you have for Nathan or myself. It's fun. It's really fun. We'll talk to you again and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Thanks
guys.
Cheers.